An update for Wreckfest dropped, and, well, I've tried to write this intro 4 times now, and I don't really know what to say. I guess I should start by talking about what they've done. They added 2 tracks, which I'll get into in a minute. They also added the Eagle R, which is like a Jaguar F-Type with some kind of new Corvette rear end. And it's a special car, so I can't really review it fairly. It sits at 4.5 strength, with all other special cars at 5.5 minimum. Something like the double-decker isn't a special, but I don't know, to me that seems like a pretty special car. The Eagle R doesn't really fit in with the new maps at least, so there's that. All in all, it actually drives quite well. It's probably not a meta car of sorts, but it's pretty fast. For 100,000 fame though, it's just not worth it. And who would spend 100 grand of fame on a special car? Just avoid it. I'll keep you posted on what happens with it. It seems like a mistake it being a special car. The new tracks are just, nothing special, really. They're long and wide, the corners are nice, the curbs work, but, well, just look. To say my Killer Bee looks out of place here is, well, an understatement. If you can't hear the frustration in my voice, you might be about to. Insert rant warning here. Wreckfest has lost its identity. When it was first released, it was kind of a simcade wrecking game, and it had stuff like brake leaks and parts wearing. Now we have, well, this. Yeah, I'm definitely not even remotely caught on this nostalgia. If I wanted to play a game like this, I'd meet with some old friends and we'd fire up some old consoles, Amiga computers. But as they open that door, I doubt it'll stop with these 2 completely out of touch maps. Next up, some 2D top-down racing, or stuff like the Snowball Cannon Pocket Rocket for online play. Yeah, I've got no idea who on earth would break a graphical style like that permanently, but to each their own, I guess. Wreckfest filled a niche, and it was a kind of derby folk racing game. With the way you could take damage, it really fitted into that category well. There, to this day, isn't another game like Wreckfest was. You couldn't really smash the life out of a car because you'd be missing a wheel, and all the cars felt like banger races and performed like such. I'm really not too keen on this update. It's too, well, gimmicky, for lack of a better term. An aside, there is BeamNG for like a derby kind of game, but it doesn't really handle very nicely, and it doesn't have an online function without mods, so no. I noticed stuff like this beginning to happen with the release of the Raiden RS. There was a kind of shift into more racing, which wasn't really too popular, but it set a community aside, people who like to set PBs and go fast. Then they shifted it again into tracks like Wrecknado, which created another community, and Wreckfest simply lost what Wreckfest was. Go and play the Regional Juniors campaign and compare it to how Wreckfest is now. Using non-DLC cars, of course. This is what happened when THQ is breathing down the developer's neck. They have to come up with ideas that they think is good, but are actually stupid. And, well, maybe they're popular for customers, I don't know. They call a game Wreckfest, and instead of keeping it folk banger racing, I'll take a different angle. I guess it's impossible to tell, but imagine how different Wreckfest would have been if it was called the next car game, as it initially was. It certainly wouldn't have these lazily implemented 8-bit maps. Super Venoms and Raidens wouldn't even be a consideration. You'd probably have stuff like the Cardinal in as DLC, but it would be, at its heart, a banger racing game, which is what it was meant to be. They introduced tournaments, instead of more multiplayer-based additions and improvements. Well, the problem with tournaments is that now they have to come up every period with a new concept to add into the game. I guess that helps them fit into both the different player bases. They ignore totally the communities and servers that are the main, if not only, reason for long-term player binding and friend-to-friend recommendation. And that is really a good way to destroy your game. But they don't even follow how many players play in multiplayer. For reference, it's about all of them. And what servers and cars they use. For what it's worth, some high-ranking Wreckfest headquarters officials, shall we say, agree with this view. I'm not going to say names. It's a shame what Wreckfest has become, and this may not be a popular opinion, but Wreckfest has been spoiled by these additions. Brydens and Wrecknado. This isn't... true, maybe these additions have made Wreckfest more popular, but this isn't what Wreckfest should be. It's not even what it was intended to be by the devs, as far as I can tell. They've always been trying to play both sides, since this has become a kind of clear thing. Wreckfest has two very, very separate communities. These communities, if you aren't aware, are the clean racers and the dirty ones. You end up with what proves to be the most popular servers, the semi-clean racing ones, and, well, before you try to argue that point, just take a look at the statistics. I'm going to click through a few of these servers now, and notice how the semi-clean servers are by far the most popular ones. They put an emphasis on folk racing kind of gameplay, and it maintains their player base far better. I don't really know what else to say. Why would you, as developers, try to cater to two sides of a game that actually proves to be less popular than what you first had when you released the game? I don't really think anyone who's liked this update. People who want nostalgia, just go and play Carmageddon. It's on Steam for not much money at all, and shit, you can probably find it somewhere for free if you know where to look. People who like clean racing don't really like this update because the tracks, well, yeah, they're alright, they're very easy to abuse, and honestly they're not very challenging to drive quickly. The new car they got can't even be used in any servers they play regardless, because it's a special car, and, well, dirty players don't like this update either. They get an ugly map, which is good for crashing out players on, granted, but this new car that they wasted 100,000 fame on, they can't even crash anyone out with it on these new maps, because it just crumbles to pieces. I don't really know what else to say. I'm quite disappointed with this update. It's, I worry that the game's gonna get another community of people who just want nostalgic shit in the game, and that would kill the game. It would give the developers lots of things to add, but no one wants to play a game which tries to do everything badly.